Blockhead-Hans. Far away in the country, in an old manor house, where lived an old squire who had two sons. They thought themselves so clever that if they had known only half of what they did know, it would have been quite enough. They both wanted to marry the king's daughter, for she proclaimed that she would have for her husband the man who knew best how to choose his words. Both prepared for the wooing the whole week, which was the longest time allowed them. But, after all, it was quite long enough, for they both knew preparatory knowledge, and everyone knows how useful that is. One knew the whole Latin dictionary, and also 3 years' issue of the daily paper of the town by heart, so that he could repeat it all backward and forward as you pleased. The other had worked at the laws of corporation, and knew by heart what every member of the corporation ought to know, so that he thought he could quite well speak on state matters and give his opinion. He understood, besides this, how to embroider braces with roses and other flowers, and spools, and for that he was very ready with his fingers. "I shall have the king's daughter!" they both cried. Their old father gave them each a fine horse. The one who knew the dictionary and the daily paper by heart had a black horse, while the other, who was so clever at corporate law, had a milk-white one. Then they oiled the corners of their mouths so that they might speak more fluently. All the servants stood in the courtyard and saw them mount their steeds, and here by chance came the third brother, for the squire had 3 sons. But nobody counted him as his brother, for he was not quite so learned as they were, and was generally called Blockhead-Hans. "Oh-ho!" said Blockhead-Hans. "Where are you off to? You are in your Sunday best clothes." "We're off to the court to woo the princess. Don't you know what is known throughout the countryside?" And they told him all about it. "Hurrah! I'll go too," said Blockhead-Hans, and his brothers laughed at him and rode off. "Dear father," cried Blockhead-Hans, "I must have a horse too. What a desire for marriage has seized me. If she will have me, she will have me, and if she won't have me, I will have her." "Stop that nonsense," said the old man. "I will not give you a horse. You can't speak. You don't know how to choose your words. Your brothers, well, they're very different lads." "Well," said Blockhead-Hans, "if I can't have a horse, I will take the goat which is mine. He can carry me." And so he did, and he sat astride his goat and stuck his heels into his side, rattling down the high road like a hurricane. "Hippity-hop, what a ride! Here I come!" shouted Blockhead-Hans, singing so that the echoes were roused far and near. But his brothers were riding slowly in front. They were not speaking, for they were thinking all over the good things they were going to say, for everything had to be well thought out. "Hello!" bawled Blockhead-Hans. "Here I am! Just look what I found on the road!" And he showed them a dead crow which he had picked up. "Blockhead," said his brothers, "what are you going to do with that?" "With the crow? I shall give it to the princess." "Oh, do so certainly," they laughed loudly. "Slap bang, here I am again. Look what I just found. You won't find such things every day on the road." And the brothers turned around to see what in the world he could have found. "Blockhead," they said, "that is an old wooden shoe, without the top. Are you going to send that, too, to the princess?" "Of course I shall," returned Blockhead-Hans, and the brothers laughed and rode on their way. "Slap bang, here I am!" cried Blockhead-Hans. "Better and better, really famous." "What have you found now?" asked the brothers. "Oh," said Blockhead-Hans, "it is really good. How pleased the princess will be." "Why," said the brothers, This is pure mud, straight from the ditch. Of course it is, said Blockhead-Hans. It's the best kind. Look how it runs through one's fingers. And so saying, he filled his pocket with the mud. But the brothers rode on so fast that dust and sparks flew all around, and they reached the gate of the town a good hour before Blockhead-Hans. Here came the suitors, numbered according to their arrival. They were arranged in rows, 6 in a row, and they were so tightly packed that they could not move their arms. This was a very good thing, for otherwise they would have been torn each other to shreds, merely because the one in front of the other. All the country people were standing round the king's throne, were crowded together in thick masses, almost out the windows to see the princess receive the suitors. And as each one came into the room, all his finest phrases went out like a candle. "It doesn't matter," said the princess. "Away! Out with him!" Unless she came to the row in which the brothers knew the dictionary by heart was. But he did not know it any longer. He had quite forgotten it in rank and file. And the floor creaked, and the ceiling was all made of glass mirrors, so that he saw himself standing on his head. And by each window were standing 3 reporters and an editor, and each of them was writing down what was said, to publish it in the paper that came out and was sold on street corners for a penny. It was fearful. They had made up such a fire, so hot, that it was growing inside. "It's hot in here, isn't it?" said the suitor. "Of course it is. My father is roasting young chickens today," said the princess. There he stood, like an idiot. He was not prepared for such a speech, and he did not know what to say, although he wanted to say something witty. "It doesn't matter," said the princess. "Take him out." And out he had to go. Now the other brother entered. "How hot it is," he said. "Of course, we're roasting young chickens today," remarked the princess. "How do you, he said, while the reporters wrote down, how do you, "It doesn't matter, take him out," said the princess. Now Blockhead-Hans came in and rode his throat right into the hall. "I say, it's roasting hot in here," he said. "Of course, I'm roasting young chickens today," said the princess. "Well, that's good," replied Blockhead-Hans. "Then can I roast crow with them?" "With the greatest of pleasure," said the princess. "But have you anything you can roast them in? I have neither pot nor saucepan." "Oh, rather," said Blockhead-Hans. "Here's a cooking implement with 10 rings." And then he drew out the old wooden shoe and laid the crow in it. "That's quite a meal," said the princess. "But where shall we get the soup from it?" "Oh, I've got it here in my pocket," said Blockhead-Hans. "I have so much that I can quite throw some away." And he poured some of the mud into his pocket. "Unlike you," said the princess. "You can answer and you can speak. I will marry you, but do you know that every word which we are saying and have been said has been taken down and will be in the paper tomorrow? By each window you see there standing 3 reporters and an old editor, and this old editor is the worst, for he doesn't understand anything." But she only said this to tease Blockhead-Hans. And the reporters giggled, and each dropped a blot of ink on the floor. "Ah, those are great people," said Blockhead-Hans, "and I will give the editor the best." So saying, he turned his pockets out and threw the mud right in his face. "That was nearly done," said the princess. "I couldn't have done it, but I will soon learn how to." Blockhead-Hans became the king, got a wife and a crown, and sat on the throne. And this we still have damp from the newspaper for the editor of the reporters, and they are not to be believed for a moment.